This was property number 2 that we bought. I found the tenants before I found the property. When I post a 3-bedroom property in this area, within a week's time I might get 50 replies. Of the 50, maybe 20 meet the criteria. How to do that? Eliminate vacancies, find your tenants first. And if I don't like them, at that point in time, I will just let them know that I'm not ready to show the property, and I will let them know as soon as it's ready which dates it is. Hey, I'm not going to be blamed for being disorganized. I just never call them back. So the ones I do like at that point in time, I will actually show them the properties. So I make sure that they have at least 3 times the income as what the rent is going to be, and there's other criteria I have too. That's how you can do this in as little amount of time as possible.
In today's video, Sarah Larbi breaks down for us the importance of tenant selection, as well as gives us some best tips and practices when we're actually going about selecting our tenants, booking viewings, and a lot more to do with property management. In addition, she breaks down the numbers behind a $100,000 BRRRR project that she did in Brantford, Ontario, and she also breaks down for us how she's able to find tenants before she buys a property. All that and more in today's video.
1 BRRRR, 2 BRRRR. 3 BRRRR.
All right, Sarah, break down the numbers for us on this beautiful property.
Yeah, so this was property number 2 that we bought, and actually the really cool thing about this property is I found the tenants before I found the property.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so because my spouse was like very, wary about finding the wrong tenants or having a house with the worst tenants that trash your place, etc., we actually ended up responding to a Kijiji ad that this tenant had put in place, just saying that she's looking for a bigger house, and so we started looking with them, and 2 months later we found 2 that were pretty much the same price, and that's how we met. I said, can you come and let me know which house of the 2 you prefer? Really? And this is the one she picked.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is really cool, and the best tenants. I mean, we have tons of great tenants, but it's just great to be able to offer something like that to somebody that might not have a chance to really be able to pick their house that they want to feel like it's their home. And so yeah, she moved in, so that was cool because we didn't have any time in between vacancies. How to do that? Eliminate vacancies, find your tenants first. And actually, a really cool tip. After this, what we started doing was that every single house, we'd ask for 4 showings, and then we would have people come through and we would show the properties, and we would have a tenant moving in pretty much at the same time that we're closing on the property. So it's tenant first. It's not always doable because the market is just extremely hot. There's lots of offers, but you can still ask for 4 showings regardless, and you can still put your tenant ahead of time. So when we bought this house, this was in 2014, it was $179,000, and it actually had burnt down to the ground a few years prior, so it was up to code, all new as of, I think it was like 2012, I believe, or 2011. And so it was really like there was nothing to do inside. The only thing that we did was the roof. The roof, and then like maybe a little bit of paint here and there, but essentially our rental costs, I mean, they were pretty much non-existent. But sometimes you hold the right property and you buy it at the right price, because we ended up buying this pretty quickly as well. We were able to refinance in 2017 for $285,000.
That's amazing.
And the current rent is $1,350.
So where do you keep finding these deals? Was this on the MLS?
This was on the MLS. Yeah, most of the properties I've bought, I would say all the properties I've bought have been on MLS, but they just don't show up on MLS for very long. So I do look at MLS and the realtor listings every single day. I get like live actual feeds as things come up. I do see them, and sometimes it's pocket deals that are about to go on MLS. And but yeah, I mean, you can still find them. They're probably around this price now. But here's the thing: this is, let's just call it 5 years later for simplicity. In 5 years from now, this number will be in the same category as this was. 5 years later or 10 years later, you're always going to see this area, especially, there's going to be tons of growth opportunity. It's close to Hamilton. I mean, it's $285 now as an example, and probably is a little bit closer to $300 at this point. But 5 years from now, it might be 400, maybe 500. And so, yes, you don't bank on appreciation, but you get a mortgage pay down, you get the cash flow regardless. I mean, it still cash flows. We did, so with this one, we actually ended up refinancing, pulling out $100,000 and bought our cottage that way with a down payment.
That's fantastic. I love it.
So, it's a cool story.
And so you were mentioning too that rents now have actually appreciated along with the neighborhood in general. So what would you consider fair market rents here to be?
Yeah, so at this point in time, $1,750 is something that you see with a 3-bedroom house quite often in this area. And I mean, market rents, just because of the shortage issue and the housing shortage issue, market rents go up a lot faster than what you can actually increase rent in Ontario, which I think is like 2.2% this coming year.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I love it. Another great deal. Let's talk about tenant selection. It sounds like that's a really important part of your business. How do you approach tenant selection, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. It is critical for me to have the right tenants in the properties because I work full-time and I would prefer to have tenants that are as easily manageable as possible and take pride of ownership or of rentership, if you call it. So they actually go through 5 different steps. The first step is a Kijiji ad where I don't post my information, but I ask them specifically to answer 3 specific questions after I describe the property. So like question number 1 might be something along the lines of, tell me about yourself and who would be living in the property. Question number 2, pets and smokers, you know, do you have any and do you smoke? And then number 3 is, how do I get in touch with you? And tenants that cannot reply to those 3 things, and you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot. They just automatically get disqualified. And the great thing is they don't have access to my phone number or my email or anything. So
interesting.
I will post, I would say when I post a 3-bedroom property in this area, you know, within a week's time I might get 50 replies. Of the 50, maybe 20 meet the criteria.
Okay.
Because also, like, because you allow pets, and you have to.
Yeah.
There's going to be people that will tell you that they have a lizard, a snake, a bunch of, you know, whatever, like 10 animals. And I don't mind animals, I just don't want 10 animals in my properties. But it allows you to eliminate a lot of them. And also, I like to give preference to people that don't smoke as much as possible. So anyways, once they go through the Kijiji process, what I do afterwards is I screen phone them. So I will block my number and I will call them, and I have a list of like 20 questions that I go through, and I make it conversational so it's not, it doesn't feel like an interrogation. I ask them, exactly. So I ask them what they like about the property, you know, if they have any questions about it, and then, you know, get them to feel comfortable. And I said, at that point in time, I say, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? And then I go through another screening out process. If I don't like them, at that point in time, I will just let them know that I'm not ready to show the property, and I will let them know as soon as it's ready which dates it is. Hey, I'm not going to be blamed for being disorganized. I just never call them back. So the ones I do like at that point in time, I will actually show them the properties. And because I have a good team in place, I'll actually send my realtor or somebody that works at the realtor on the realtor's team, and they'll just let the people go through. And what I do is I book them 10 minutes apart from each other within a 2-hour time period, give or take. And then I have applications, and on my applications I have another 2 pages of questions that they reply and they hand in with the application. And then my email that goes to them is still not my actual regular email, so I still hide my information at that point in time. When I do get the application, I call the past landlords, the current landlords. I will check credit, but I won't check it on everybody. I'll check it on just the ones I like first the most.
Makes sense.
I don't want to ding everyone's credit, you know, if I don't like them as much. And then I do all my checks. I make sure that they have at least 3 times the income as what the rent is going to be, and then there's other criteria I have too. From there, I actually have an interview afterwards with them. Like, we'll have a coffee, we'll talk, go through that. And then the final step is actually the lease signing, where I collect first and last.
Got you.
Yeah.
So this sounds like a very robust system you've put in place. How did you go about figuring out what questions to ask, or how did it evolve, or did you start from day one with this thorough process?
I wish. No, it evolved over time. Just screening tenants after, you know, your 3rd and 4th property. I said, okay, well, I really got to start putting what I'm doing more into practice and just creating more of a process with it. So it took like 3 or 4 properties to get there, but you know, ultimately, like that's how you can do this in as little amount of time as possible, is to create those processes. But the really cool thing is you can duplicate yourself by having your realtor help you out. Because, you know, the property that we went to and that we were just at in Homedale, that person was completely, entirely screened using the same process by my realtor. And that realtor followed the steps, and I have a great tenant. And so now I'm trying to delegate even more than I used to. And I do enjoy the tenant screening process, but because of all the different things that I'm doing, if I can hand it off to someone that's going to be just as good and local, why not?
Yeah, I love it. Great tips. So Sarah, a lot of investors get caught up in analysis paralysis. What sort of tips would you give to first-time investors, to help give them the confidence to move forward?
One of the biggest things I was missing was I didn't know other investors. It was me trying to do this.
Yes.
And it was me trying to read books or trying to read articles and listening to podcasts. But networking groups are just the most important thing when you're starting out, because it'll allow you to see what others are doing that are actually doing it. And what you see other than this on the news is not positive, right?
Yeah.
You hear all the horror stories, and most people don't want to do it because of that. And I would say just find a good networking group, or 2 or 3. You can go to many, to as many as possible, and then start meeting people that are doing what you want to do in the strategy that you want to do, and then potentially, hopefully, in the location that you want as well. And also, if you have the ability to get a mentor or a coach, do that as well.
Yeah, I love it.
Awesome. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, reach out to Sarah at sarahlarbi.com. That's my email, or sarahlarbi.com, and contact me at the Contact Me page. And also follow me on Instagram, Investor Sarah Larbi, and let me know what your story is and why you're struggling to get started. And reach out to me so I can help you.
Thanks again to Sarah for all the great tips about tenant selection and being a property manager and landlord. If you guys are currently a property manager or landlord in Ontario, Canada, or aspiring to be, check out the video description down below, or go to mattmckeever.com, where I have a free landlord starter kit for you guys. It's a free little mini video course with a lot of templates and best practices for landlords in Ontario, Canada.
1 burr, 2 burr, 3 burr, 4 burr.